Are you laughing your head off at these Texas Democrats? I mean, I am. I'm enjoying the show so much. It was supposed to be, a brilliant masterstroke. The working kind of in coordinated fashion, two private planes, 50 plus Democrats, and they're having a great time on the airplane. They're taking selfies. They're triumphant. They're treated as media heroes when they arrive. They've got all these meetings with the White House, meetings with Kamala Harris, with Pelosi. They're lobbying for federal legislation. They've sort of, thumbed the finger, if you will, at Governor Abbott and the Republicans. Go ahead and meet without us. You don't have a quorum. Ha 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 ha. And now, who's laughing, guys? First of all, kind of reminds me actually of an old, it reminds me of all these videos you see on social media of the stupid criminals. The guy who runs into the getaway car after robbing the bank and the getaway car won't start, or the guy who's the criminal, arsonist who sets himself on fire. It's that kind of thing. I remember seeing once a comedy about Sherlock Holmes and Watson, and Sherlock Holmes tells Watson, he goes, Watson, listen, the bad guys are coming, but you know what? I've got it all figured out. I've got all these mirrors set up throughout the house. They'll see their reflection over here, their reflection over there. They won't have any idea where we are. And so the bad guys come in and they start shooting. And then in the closing scene, Sherlock Holmes and Watson appear, and both of them are riddled with bullets. In other words, this brilliant scheme completely backfires. And that's what's happened with these dudes. They've become super spreaders. They've given COVID to someone at the White House. They've given COVID to someone on the Pelosi staff. So you've got all these COVID-ridden Democrats. By the way, all of them pretend we're fully vaccinated. Well, what the heck does that say about the vaccination? All of you are fully vaccinated and all of you have COVID? Really? So I wonder if these guys are lying about being fully vaccinated. Either that, or it suggests that the vaccination itself may be a problem, may not make us quite as invulnerable as we are led to believe by the CDC, because this is not a case like one person got COVID. It's kind of like a whole bunch of them got COVID, and they've apparently been transmitting it left and right to each other. Now, here's Jen Psaki, the press secretary, being asked about this, and she sort of decorously tries to avoid the topic. Here we go.
More than 10% of the traveling party with these Texas Democrats now claim to have a breakthrough case. Is there any concern that this trip that was intended to advocate for voting rights is now a super spreader event in Washington?
Well, I would say that's not a characterization we're making from here.
That's not the way we'd put it. We don't like to blame our own team for being super spreaders. I mean, the point is these guys are massive hypocrites, right? I mean, they're lecturing everybody. We must wear a vaccine. You must wear a mask. You must. And then when they're on the private plane, this is when you get a little window into how they behave in their own world. They don't care. None of them are wearing a mask. And they're taking selfies, they're hugging each other. You can see here that it's do as I say, not do as I do. And but the problem is beyond that. I was kind of curious. Debbie and I were talking about, is it actually legal to go maskless in a private plane as opposed to, say, a commercial plane? So I looked it up. And here it is. Federal law requires wearing a mask on board private aircraft, and failure to comply constitutes a violation of federal law. So again, you get this idea, is anybody even looking into this? Are these guys going to be held accountable? Probably not. And this is how Democrats are. They're unaccountable, and they know it. They know that they can do stuff, and no one's going to call them on it. So what you have here is on the first big issue of American politics, which is COVID, you see how the hypocrisy of the Texas Democrats mirrors the hypocrisy of the party. But there's a second issue, and that's this. While the media lionizes these guys as champions of democracy, they're fighting for a federal law about voting rights, what is being ignored is a simple matter in which they are subverting democracy, the democratic process in their own state. Let's remember, they're elected to represent Texas. Now, it's one thing if they had some legitimate pretext where, had they gotten COVID somehow in Texas and said, we can't show up because we're sick, we have to quarantine. But no, they made a getaway, which was, if you had to describe what they're doing, it's, quote, obstructing an official proceeding. The official proceeding here meaning the special session of the Texas legislature. They're obstructing that, and they're proud of doing it, and they're boasting about it. Well, how does what they're doing, the Texas Democrats, how is it different fundamentally from what the January 6th protesters are accused of doing? Remember, for the nonviolent protesters, the vast majority of them, they're accused of like trespassing, unauthorized in a federal building. But I mean, that's nothing, right? That's a fine of 50 cents. So in order to try to ramp up the charges, make it more serious, the government is accusing them of obstructing an official proceeding. And by obstructing, they mean obstructing for what? Delaying it for like 3 hours? Now, look at the way the Texas Democrats are delaying the democratic process in Texas, unlawfully. They're breaking the law no less than the January 6th protesters, and they're obstructing it for days, and it'll be soon weeks, and who knows if it'll turn into months. So once again, you see the Democratic Party here, although they portray themselves as champions of democracy, they don't hesitate to undermine, halt, and subvert the democratic process when it benefits them politically.